Hello, what you're seeing on my wall right there is my storyboard. I use that, as you can see, it's kind of color coded, and I have stick-it notes and index cards and washi tape on there. I love some washi tape. So let's talk about why I have a storyboard on my wall. Alright, let's talk about why the storyboard's on the wall and why I'm trying to outline when I'm really more of a pantser at heart. I started my first couple of NaNoWriMo events as a pantser. It wasn't working for me because I ended up with the saggy middle. I got stuck. I didn't know where I was going. I hadn't plotted anything out. I knew what my character was, well, who my character was, the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. I wasn't quite sure of all of it, but I had a pretty general idea where my novel was going to end, where it started. That was it. I had to go from point A to point B, and it was really simple, I thought. Well, who my character was, the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. I wasn't quite sure of all of it, but I had a pretty general idea where my novel was going to end, where it started. That was it. I had to go from point A to point B, and it was really simple, I thought. It didn't work for me. Then I tried detail outlining. That didn't work for me. I tried that like 2 NaNoWriMos in a row, I believe, or 2 NaNoWriMo events in a row, I should say. Since neither one of those really worked, I tried somewhere in the middle. I have found that through a lot of trial and error, a lot of research, reading, writing books, figuring out different methods and modes of outlining, going from no detail to really detailed, trying to find that middle ground, that what works best for me, I've used index cards and pen and paper and all kinds of things. I do put what's on my storyboard in Scrivener. I do use Scrivener, and I love it. But I can't put my stuff in Scrivener. I don't actually do any of my outlining at all in Scrivener until I get it in my head, so that I've kind of figured out the main things. So what are the main things? Well, in journalism, they teach you the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. So, who, yeah, I think I covered all of those. I haven't had quite enough coffee, or I've either, yeah, I haven't had enough coffee. So, in journalism, they teach you all of that. You want to have detailed information. You don't want the reader to guess. You want the reader to know. You have facts. You present those facts in an interesting manner so that it will be read. Well, that's pretty much the same case for a novel. You've got your who, that's your main character. Your what are the character's goals? The when, you have like a time frame and you have action that's going to happen. There's going to be conflict. These things are going to happen. You're going to have actions, you're going to have reactions. The when, the where, your setting kind of thing. You've also going to figure out all the stuff about the antagonist. I mean, the antagonist is going to have goals, right? Yeah, the antagonist is going to have goals. The antagonist's main goal is probably to keep your main character from pursuing and achieving their goals. Well, that's really good, and and in theory, but when it came to actually plotting out my novel, wasn't really having such a great time. I tried and tried and tried. I am what is called a loose outliner, or a plotster, or an astronaut. There are all kinds of different terms for this. To me, I'm just somewhere in the middle. I know I can't pants it completely, but I know that detailed outlining is not going to work for me. So I outline, and I use the 3-act structure. And to me, it's the beginning, the middle, the end. I'm going to break this down to really easy terms so that I don't have to do all this super hard work that's going to be for nothing because I am not a very detailed outliner. So my beginning, which is pretty much the introduction, you want to talk about your main character in their ordinary life, in their regular world, and you are going to have something happen. That's your inciting incident. You're going to have this something happen. And then your main character has to make a choice. Now, usually you want that choice to be voluntary. Once the character makes the choice, you have the immediate effect, like what goes on after they make that choice. And here we go with the glasses again. I'm sorry. So once they make the choice, you have the immediate, you're going to start having what is known as plot points and pinch points and midpoints and all this good stuff. But basically, you're really going to have 3 obstacles. Usually. It can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be whatever you want, but most of the time it's 3. So you're going to have these obstacles, the conflict. And for each time that the character goes through this conflict and tries to beat the obstacle or achieve their goal or whatever you want to call it, people call it all kinds of different things. And I'm not going to get into every single technical term because they're different based on what you look at. They're going to, along the way, pick up friends or allies, all these ordeals. And towards the end of the midpoint, which is Act 2, there's going to be what is called the darkest moment, all is lost moment, that kind of thing. The character is going to think that there's no way that they can win, there's no way they can achieve their goals. They're going to all but give up. And then something's going to happen. They're going to get this big idea. Boom. They're going to realize that they can do this. But in order for them to do it, they either have to do it alone or they're going to have to do it with somebody's help, and then all kinds of things happen. But the main thing is that the character has to realize that the character can do this, and the character has hope because the character has this power within. I love these terms. I really do. There's all these fun terms like fun and games and stuff like that, and it's like pretty cool. But anyway, the character realizes this. They're on the road back towards achieving their goals. All is not lost. Going to fight the good fight. Okay? Their character's fighting the good fight. This is where your climax and your last battle kind of thing, and then your resolution all come in, and boom, you've got your novel. I wish it really were that simple, but that's why I use the storyboard. I map out my ideas on that storyboard with index cards and stick-it notes, and I can rearrange things if need be. And then once I'm done with that and I've kind of got it all like I want it, the beginning, the middle, the end, some of the main things that happen, which is, I've talked about this in previous videos, there's like a 7-point system, and those are like the 7 main things when you're outlining, and those are pretty much all I use. Those 7 main things, that's what I put in my outline. I don't outline detailed chapters. I don't outline chapters really hardly at all, just those 7 things, and that's it. I don't outline scenes. I do keep in the back of my mind and put a little letter or label or a color for action and reaction to kind of keep up with my scenes or my chapters. I want things to be like flowing well so that readers are staying interested, because I don't want them overwhelmed with too much tension all at one time. Boom, 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 boom. I don't want them to become bored and put my book down and never look at it again or give me a really bad review. To have a novel that I would want to read. And honestly, as an avid reader, but a writer, I do pick up on things like plot holes, or when the book becomes a bit stagnant and boring, when there's not enough action, when there's too much of something or too little of something, when it becomes confusing, that kind of thing. So for Camp NaNoWriMo, or for NaNoWriMo, I have learned through trial and error, and I really do learn something every single time I participate in a type of NaNoWriMo event. But as a writer and a reader, I think Stephen King pretty much was on the ball with it, or is on the ball with it, when he said in order to be a good writer, you have to be a reader. And I think that's very true, because you pick up on things you would not normally pick up on if you're only writing, or say you're only reading how to write books and you're not reading anything else. Because how to write books are helpful. They're research and factual, and they give you ideas, and they kind of keep you so that you can stay on task. But if you're not reading fiction, or even nonfiction, if nonfiction is your thing, or say poetry is your thing and you're writing anthologies of poetry, if you don't read poems by anybody else, I don't know, you know? I mean, I write poetry. I used to write it a lot, and I hadn't written fiction for a long time. And now I'm wanting to write poetry again, and I actually wrote a couple of little poems here lately, thanks to, I guess, my shoulders, both, yes, my left worse than my right. But thanks to my shoulders being all out of whack and everything else, and I'm going to have to go through physical therapy, which means that I might not be able to sit at this desktop very much and write because of the reaching thing. But I've done a lot more reading, like fun stuff that I hadn't read in a while, like really helpful as a writer to change up what I read. I read a lot of different types of books. I don't stick with one genre necessarily. I have my favorites. I like suspense. I like a bit of horror. I like romance. I like historical romance. I love paranormal books. Like, I really do like some classics. I love fantasy, and I like some sci-fi. I am an avid fan of the Chronicles of Narnia and the Harry Potter series. I like Percy Jackson. I love Stephen King and Patricia Cornwell, and I love Nora Roberts. And I really like Jonathan Kellerman, and I love some Anne Rice and some Dean Koontz, and I like James Patterson, and I also like Shakespeare and Hemingway and Steinbeck and Vonnegut and Bradbury and all kinds of stuff. So I try not to limit myself, and that's one of the great things about anything that's NaNoWriMo, is that every time I participate in these events, I am learning something. And then when the event is over, I take a break, and I usually read a few books, and I try to pick at least 3 or 4 books from different genres so that I can expand my mind and my horizons a little bit. And I think that's probably why I think things like NaNoWriMo are such a great thing, is that you learn. And if you're writing every day, it becomes a habit, like I talked about before. But if you're reading, that also becomes a habit. And reading and writing are absolutely wonderful. So, oh, and art journaling. Art is absolutely wonderful. And according to my husband and to everybody else I know, like that, music is absolutely wonderful. But I'm more of I like music, don't get me wrong, but like when I'm writing, I don't have a soundtrack. I listen to rainy moods and sometimes instrumental music added to rainy moods. Some soundtracks from movies and that kind of thing, but I don't really listen to music with lyrics when I write, because I end up distracted, and that's not good. So I hope maybe some of these tips have helped. You have to figure out what works for you. I don't really want to do a whole lot of videos or a whole lot of stuff about outlining, because outlining, there's so many books out there and so many videos on outlining, that I really just kind of wanted to talk about my storyboard and how I finally found what worked for me. See you soon. Bye.